session.
Thank you.
Okay, well then, recognizing that we have a quorum, it's my distinct pleasure to call what seems to be a rare occurrence, a Finance Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, February 20th. We don't have a whole lot of members of the public, and Bert, I know what you're here for, but I'll ask anyway. Is there public comment for issues that are not otherwise on the agenda? Seeing none. We have minutes before us distributed a few days ago, hopefully enough time that everybody's had a chance to review them for meetings of January 22nd, 25th, 27th, and February 12th. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Nope.
Any corrections? I didn't note any. Then I'll ask for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Moving right along, item 4, review and discuss contract review committee recommendations. Is Dorothy planning to be here? I see Bert's on the phone.
I'm just trying to find out where she is, because she called me, Dorothy.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. She's on the way over.
She's on the way. Okay. I don't want to jump into town meeting articles then, but maybe we can take item 6, if it pleases the committee, see if there's any committee reports. I don't have anything to report. Denise, you had a suggestion that maybe isn't part of the contract review committee recommendations, but an idea for future years contract review committee reports that maybe you want to bring up.
Sure. I was discussing with Stephen, or asking Stephen's idea about, this is my first time sitting through the contract review committee, and what I found is that the financials submitted by each organization were varied in content and quality, is my way of phrasing that. So I was thinking that it would be helpful to give them a template to say this is the minimum you have to submit, including fiscal, for the year that, like, for example, we didn't get fiscal year 19 budget from one of the organizations, and yet they're asking for an appropriation for this year. So my idea was that you have to have the fiscal year 19 budget outlook, you have to have at least 2 prior years, maybe 3 would be better, and certain categories broken down explicitly so we'd have transparency of the numbers that we're looking at rather than trying to figure it out the hard way. And that would become part of the submission. They'd get a year's notice on that, and if they don't submit that, then their application is incomplete and not available, and they're not eligible for funds. And really be strict about getting them to adhere to supplying this information, because it has been a challenge to get some of the information that we've requested, and I think this would support it. So that's my observation from my year on, or my tenure so far on CRC, and I'm just kind of floating the idea with all of you. I'll talk to David when he's back. I've mentioned it briefly to Dorothy and Brian today, and I just want to hear what people's thoughts are on that.
Sure.
It makes sense. I mean, you'd like the information to be comparable and, sort of the comparable level of detail. I don't know. I've never seen the details that you have, or that Stephen, you had this role before, right? I mean,
Yeah, and my experience was the same as Denise's. It was, varying levels of information is available, and maybe not for lack of effort on the part of the applicants, but just inexperience and that type of.
Yeah, I don't think it's a question of trying to obfuscate, but when you ask 4 times for budget 19 and you don't get it, that the idea of spending town funds in a way that's fully transparent, I think, is important. So that would be my recommendation for next year's applications, if everyone can get behind that idea.
Okay. I'm not familiar with what is the process for requesting these applications. I don't know if the Finance Committee or the Finance Department has the authority to require anything, or if it's I think it's ultimately the Board of Selectmen who's requesting, and the Finance Committee and the Contract Review Committee reviews these applications, but it's really the Board of Selectmen's process. Is that right?
For 200.
I'd have to really dig back and see how the submittal requirements came up, but I don't think think it would hurt the FinCom to make a recommendation like that, and that sounds totally reasonable. Like, it sounds sort of obvious.
Right.
Making
Yeah.
organizations do.
So I'd be happy to put something together that more advises the CRC that that's what the committee's going to be looking for 2020.
Great.
The selectmen should not object.
No, it seems a common sense idea, yeah. And I think it's really an extension of, what's been going on through all the budget review processes,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
asking for more detail and asking for the same information from all applicants. So thank you for bringing that up. And
Thank you.
okay. Anybody else have anything to talk about while we wait for Dorothy to dodge traffic on our way here?
It is rush hour.
Nothing. All right.
Can we talk about the embarkation fee? Do we actually have $270,000? Isn't it usually budgeted like 190 or something?
We do.
We do.
There's enough in the retained earnings of the fund balance to increase that to 265. Last year, we got a little tight and it was salvage because that's where the remainder of the money comes from on an annual basis. So because there is that additional money, we can't go at that level this year.
Okay. That sounds like class.
I might want to sit next to Joe.
Sounds like big raindrops.
Except for the peeping.
Dorothy, we are ready for your presentation as soon as you settle in.
I'm going to recuse myself from this one because the hospital gets
Good.
That's what you think.
Oh, well, wait a minute, let me review this.
And because Terry's not here, I'll just note for the record that Chris is stepping away from the table, recusing himself from discussion on the CRC presentation.
I think Terry's here by tape recorder.
She is, but just in case she...
Yeah.
Do I have to sit in front of this, or can I sit?
If you could, make sure the microphone's with you, but you're
You
welcome
can
to
sit
sit
in
and
Chris's
just
seat.
pull it over to you.
No, I'll sit.
Yeah, just angle that whole thing down to the chair there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize. I'm used to coming FinCom when I'm like last on the agenda. So, so
You're the priority today, so thank
I
you.
apologize for that. As you see in front of you, just to clarify, this is a draft report. It has not been voted upon by the committee, but the allocations have been voted upon that are in it. Okay. And I would like to sort of start and present each one of the organizations and give you reasons why we are supporting them. So A Safe Place has a new director this year. Last year when we presented to you, they were in search of a director. They've hired Susan Kennedy, and she's in the audience with us today. They also have hired a new advocate that took over for Kristen, who left after many years there. And they're very excited about that. They have another young lady that I actually got to meet when I went to do a visit, who is moving on to get a master's degree, so they're actually going to be looking for somebody to fill her spot. But she's going into clinical social work, which is pretty cool, considering the hours that she's put there. During this last year, they did the, do you know the Walk in Her Shoes program, which is a fundraiser? Actually, they had 40 men walk in shoes which was a dynamic statement on behalf of the men participating.
Painful too, I think.
I think very painful, but maybe they know what it's like now to walk in our shoes. They're not easy. Interestingly, they've done, since they gave our July, for fiscal year 18, they've had 92 hotline callers, 72 domestic violence, where they've helped out with 72 domestic violent cases. 18 children have been in the child to witness of violence programs they've had. 29 sexual assault clients, 28 trauma therapy. So they provide trauma therapy for children in-house, which is amazing. It's an amazing program. And it was clearly a very missed part in behavioral health for the community. And they've done 31 court advocacies to date. They've also just received grant monies for which, with the help of the Unitarian Church, is very interesting is that both the Unitarian Church and St. Paul's have been actively involved in Safe Place. St. Paul's provides laundry once a week. So they pay for your laundry to be done at Holgate's Laundry on every Wednesday for clients of a Safe Place, which is major for a family that's going through that or somebody that's going through that. And the Unitarian Church has been behind the program called the OWL program. And it's a prevention program, which they just got the grant money for. Safe Place just received it. I'm not quite sure when, but a month ago. So they just received the money. So what they're hoping to do is they're going to be picking trainers and training the trainers, and then the trainers will then train other trainers. And by September, they're hoping to have a program in the middle school for 7th and 8th graders on prevention. Their long-term goal of Safe Place now is to develop an educational program for the whole school network in prevention. Safe Place used to have a very big one many, many years ago. And over the years, it's dwindled and changed. And one of Susan's hopes are to reinstate that program and get it up and going. So I think that they're moving on the right path. As always, everybody, I can clearly say that everybody on the Contract Review Committee has always believed and endorsed Safe Place for what they provide for this community, because it's a valuable, valuable tool. We don't really have anything else like it available. So with that allocation, we are requesting that they ask for $50,000. We are requesting that $50,000 be allocated to them in that program. Any questions?
I was curious, the town's contribution to $50,000 for a Safe Place. I have the same question about all the rest of the charities as well. What percentage of their budget does the town tend to contribute? Is it 5%, 25%?
This is less than 10%.
Less than 10%. Just sort of, I'm always curious as to the scale as to what the town's contribution is.
Dorothy, you kind of alluded to what the OWL program is, and it's about education in the schools. What does OWL stand for? What is that?
Good question.
Okay.
It's our whole life.
Would you mind answering that, sir? Our whole lives, and it's a program sponsored by the church for a number of years. It sort of lapsed about 7 years ago, but this is a national program. It's not unique to Nantucket, but it was very successful here on Nantucket. And I think it lapsed about 7 years ago, and the program as it now stands will be a collaboration with the Safe Place, Fair Winds, and the church. We're sort of excited about it because we believe wholeheartedly that prevention is key to preventing violence.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions in regards to Safe Place? Okay. The Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention. That's ASAP. Otherwise, we all know it as ASAP. It has a dynamic president of the board, Holly McGowan, unbelievable woman, and they have a director, and Aaron Schreider, I hope I said that correctly. They presented in this last year, Janine Keene. She is a addiction specialist, And she has done 14, they're going to be presenting their 14th Family Awareness Program. And it is an educational program on the effects of addiction to not only the family, but the community. And they have gotten, you know when you say if you can touch one life, you've made a difference? They have been told that there are 2 lives that this program has actually saved. So if that's what they've done, that's amazing. Because that's one more than we usually think something can really save a life. And one of the person whose lives they saved actually came to them and told them that he is now a proud father of a little girl, and didn't think he ever would have been that without this program. So basically they've been running it for about 14 months, almost the same amount of time. So I think that in itself is just an unbelievable thing for any of us to hear. And they will be doing one on the 22nd and 23rd and 24th of March, and said that if anybody would like to stop in and see what it's all about, feel free to. And I think that she's a dynamic woman, and I think it's really something that anybody can benefit from. They also just heard the other day that BU students in public health have had to do a study program, and they've actually picked Nantucket as their study program, and they're working with ASAP on the study of vaping in the high school and on marijuana use in the 7th and 8th grade. So they're going to be coming down and doing some study, meeting with kids, meeting with teachers and administration, and coming back and forth, and this will be like their thesis for the year. And so they're hoping that they're going to come with some tools for the community on these 2 subjects, which I think is pretty cool. They also did a radio segments this year, 20-minute radio segments, and they were actually conversations about addiction, and some of them were addicts, ex-addicts, parents of addicts, community members, and they actually had open conversation about addiction and how it's affecting everybody in different ways. They're now taking those conversations, and they're going to be available on their website, so people can listen to the conversations on the website. They're doing the second round of Creating World Leaders. They did it in the middle school program. It was known as YELL, which has been it's been renamed Leadership Explorers, and is being taken over by the high school, the Nantucket Police Department, with Keith Mansfield and Casey Thompson, and they're collaborating with the middle school in this program. It had such a great impact on one student that one student actually signed up to be a board member for ASAP, and has, they say, become a very big advocate for their peers. They're opening up, Brian Forsati is working with the second program, and it's called Creating World Leaders. They're bringing in somebody that oversees the whole New York City program. New York City does it in every single public school. And the woman her name is Michelle, that oversees that whole program, is coming to Nantucket to train. And the goal of the program is to connect people with their potential selves. So they get high school students together and think about where you're going to go in your life and how you can change your life and what you want to see in your life. It's an 8-week program. And so they're hoping to, if they can affect one kid the way they did that one that's sitting now on ASAP, that makes a difference for everybody. They did the drug take-back program 3 times last year, and that's done with coordination with Alan Bell. Alan Bell is a board member of theirs, but he volunteers the pharmacy and his staff, and they take back the drugs with them and work with the police department on that program. And then they do what we all know as Red Ribbon Week. Red Ribbon Week has been evolving into a different program. I think a lot of people have a perception of Red Ribbon Week, but they've actually in the last year really evolved it into a much more informative and educational program. And I was sort of surprised when I sat down with Polly again, and because it had been a discussion of the CRC, some of the funding towards Red Ribbon Week. And I was surprised at what they really did. They did a night of chat and chowder, which is a prevention director, as well as recovery coaches sat with parents and people in the community, and they talked about recovery and prevention. They worked in collaboration with the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools and had Mike Smith live this year, so he talked with the kids in the middle school and the high school. They did a digital PSA contest instead of posters. Kids did it digitally. They were asked to be a part of the town forum on recreational marijuana that week, and they did the drug take back that week too. They've also, which I don't know if any of you read do I say it right?
Veritas.
Veritas, thank you, Stephen. They have given them their thought of prevention over to them and asked them to do the ads. And if you pick up one of the newspapers and look for their ads, they're pretty dynamic. The kids have come up with a key as the way they're presenting that they're actually the key holders to change. And their ads are really, really cool. And it was sort of given to them on they were given a blank canvas. So I think it's nice, it's interesting how they're trying to reach through children, or they're not even children, they're young adults, and get them to take ownership in some part of the educational part of the program. And then on April 5th, they're doing a program in the school called Improbable Players, and they're short plays being done by people that are in recovery or been through recovery, and take you through all phases of recovery, and that'll be presented to all the school students this year. So I think that the one thing ASAP has done, and Holly McGowan has really put drug addiction to the front page and hit families in a way that we weren't, and educated families. So we did, this year they had asked for an increase in 23.6 is what 1,600 is what we're allocating towards the Alliance to ASAP. Elder Services at Cape Cod is Sherry Hunt, and that again is Meals on Wheels and the luncheon at the Senior Center. They've been working with Kitty Murtox, has now been doing it for 8 years in a row. They have 22 women and 10 adult men that are seniors that they bring food to. Sometimes they're the only people that see the seniors. It's the only interaction they have. It costs about $15.74 a meal. We give $1.43, less than 9% of the cost of the meals. That one I knew. And they also Elder Services also got a grant this year, which is they have a clinical behavioral therapist available for 3 visits to seniors in home, because Medicaid is not accepted by most of our behavioral health clinicians on the island. Fairwinds does not accept it, nor do most of the private practitioners. So this has been a grant to get mental health available. They actually, and the other thing that was really cool is 2 years ago they came to us and they told us they had absolutely no volunteers. They were going out and delivering food themselves. They now have 60 volunteers providing the food year-round, which is the Nantucket Island Resorts has taken a big part of it. They do it all winter long, and the golf club has taken a big stance in it. So it's pretty cool. They've come a long way. So we have asked for they asked for 16,000, and we are allocating 16,000 to them.
So who makes up the rest of that budget, the 91% that doesn't come from this?
It is made up by the federal government.
Cape and Island's the larger organization.
Right.
So,
and then they're funded through the federal government.
Gotcha. And wasn't there some discussion earlier this year about the federal government reducing subsidy for Meals on Wheels?
Yes, there has been. It has not happened.
Hasn't happened yet. Good news.
And we're gonna hope that it does not happen. Health Imperatives. Health Imperatives has a new director, Sunny Daly. She is from here and is known by a lot of people because she was a midwife. So a lot of individuals would go to her throughout, which has helped their base. Julie Kehoe is their CEO, one of the most dynamic women I've ever met. She came to that organization, I think it was 6 years ago, and what she's done with it is absolutely amazing. From fiscal year 17, they have seen an increase of 15% increase in residents and a 30% increase in site visits. they're actually, in the first 6 months of fiscal year 18, they are already seeing a 12% increase over fiscal year 17 on their clients that they're seeing. And they not only do reproductive health, which everybody has always thought that that's all they do, they also see men in their clinics. And they got the Healthy 20 from the Nantucket Cottage Hospital, the Healthy Nantucket 2020 initiative, and they received that grant, and the day they received the grant, they hired their first person on hand. So they have hired a new nurse practitioner who will be taking on one more day. The nurse practitioner they have is taking on another day. They have hired a bilingual nutritionist that will also run the WIC program, so they'll be able to get, usually WIC has flown in to do their program there. We will have an on-island WIC specialist working with them. And they have hired another nurse to work. So this will allow them to now provide 4 days of clinical services to clients. And they're also doing a home visit program, which the federal government did slash the money on the home visit program, which used to allow first-time families to have somebody come and see them. So they've taken this on in this initiative, and they will be seeing anybody with children under the age of 23, regardless of how many children they have, which is huge. And Sunny has been working on expanding work at the high school with Jamie Kurtak, and working with the SAY program through Safeways. Health Imperatives has asked for $50,000. We recommend the $50,000 allocation to Health Imperatives. Fair Winds comes in. Fair Winds came to us. Tess is still running. I don't know how to say Tess's last name now.
Right.
Sorry. And Tess, they came to us with a new program. They are opening up a clinical hours, after hours, where they're hoping to see clients where you can just walk in the door and get triage clinical work. When they presented that to us as a whole as their only program, we did go back and ask them to make sure that they put back in the sliding scale too for this coming year, because we didn't want to see the clients that we had been supporting lose their clinical services. They are very excited about this program. They believe that they will be able to, through their triage, service more people that are unable to get clinical help at the beginning. And it looks like Fair Winds is really trying harder to collaborate with a few more of the organizations on the island. They are getting their fingers in the door with a lot of other programs, which is, it's cool to see this year. It's a change.
Wasn't Fair Winds, this is the third or fourth time I think I've gone through this, and wasn't Fair Winds the organization that has had managerial, board, and other financial difficulties over the last couple of years in terms of its accounting? And so is that stabilized or improved compared to wherever it was 2 or 3 seasons ago? Or
what I can say is it's pretty hard for I'm going to let Denise answer that, but it's hard for us because the honest to God truth is we just got their finances again. So this is an issue is the elongated time that it takes for us to get financials. So coming in front of you, sometimes we, as a board, haven't really gotten to sit and discuss the finances.
It's a $1.8 million organization. That's their total, expenses, revenue offset. This year they'll make about $19,000 according to the projected financials we've seen. There's not one person in charge of finance in this organization. And so for that reason, it's been very difficult. I was explaining that we got the IRS 660 or 990, I can't remember. 990, thank you. And last year they filed a 990 easy. This year a 990, or the most recent year a 990, 2016. I couldn't reconcile them if I had the rest of my life to do it. I mean, it's just, okay, I'm being a little bit dramatic on that. But the point was I was not very concerned, but There is, Ben, I think it's difficult to have transparency when there isn't one person in charge of finance. Now, they've just appointed a new treasurer who's very keen, Kate Weld from Nantucket Bank, I believe she works at. And I'm hoping that we see more transparency going forward. But to my comments earlier before Dorothy arrived, it would be helpful to provide them a spreadsheet and say, this is the numbers you need to provide in order to apply for a grant. And then that way we'd have better transparency, because it was hard work going back and forth between what we were able to get and when we were able to get it. So I think they're better, Joe, to your question. From what I understand, they were close to bankruptcy a couple years ago. So they're better, but they're not probably in the state an organization should be in for the amount of their spend. That would be my summary.
I mean, it's disappointing that, again, not that it's the FinCom or necessarily even the town's place to police them, but it sounds like they've made only sort of minor steps towards administrative and fiscal responsibility, I guess. Is what I
Yeah.
was told. So-
Well, that's a good point, and maybe it's not the town's, job to police them, but that was a condition of the last grant, wasn't it? That that the organization was going to perform or have performed for them an organizational audit.
We asked for a managerial audit. We did receive the managerial audit, but there were questions on what the actual findings were of the managerial audit. We got the how far they had accomplished on their managerial audit, but not the actual, these are the findings we found, and this is where we wanted improvements. So it's a little disheartening, because
Yeah.
what we actually wanted to see was the physical managerial audit, which
So
told
they
us.
they didn't share with you the actual document that they got.
What we got was basically a report. We'll forward it to the FinCom.
Okay.
It was just a report, and basically a lot of it talked about the accomplishments they've had, but not, we found a problem here,
Right.
and here, and this is where we thought. But they are working with the organization now. They've hired the organization, and the organization is now a part of their team, working with them.
Good.
I think they have a conference call with them once a week. And
Good.
they've changed, so there's now 3 people in charge of clients and client booking, client insurance. So 3 of the clinicians that are actually, or Tess and 2 of the clinicians that are actually seeing clients are also in charge of that kind of stuff. So I think the idea that I know that we presented to them at one point, the CRC, that we thought that they actually needed somebody to be in charge of their finances. And they have appointed a treasurer to the board, but not a treasurer to actually the organization itself, inside the organization. So
Okay.
they haven't done that, which is something I think that basically is what Denise is talking about.
But they are taking some steps, even if you haven't seen the audit. You don't know what those requests it sounds like they have an ongoing consulting
They have an
relationship.
ongoing- yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Good.
They do.
Good.
I think they're honestly trying.
Right. And I, not on this list, so I'll just add it or ask you about it here. For the last few years, we've heard that Gosnold was coming to the island, was going to be performing some of the services that Fairwinds offers. Are they doing that and just not in need of money from the town?
Well, there's 2 things. They're not a nonprofit,
Okay.
which puts them out of the ballpark for town grants.
So are they active now? Or they're...
They are active. They actually started, actually have a Saturday triage too, where people can drop in for services. They've been active. Gosnoddle is actually doing the emergency care at the hospital. They're who gets called on the emergency care. They're still working with Briarcliff. It's a pediatric firm that comes here. They work with them, and they're working with the school too. And they're taking in clinicians. They see clients themselves.
Okay. And is that easing some of the burden for Fairwinds? Or is there...
The truth is, I would like to see Fairwinds collaborate more with organizations.
Okay.
And one of them being Gosnold. There is not a collaboration going on there, or an active collaboration with the hospital. And it would be nice to see. Gosnold is collaborating with the hospital. Okay. So Health and Fair Winds asked for 120,000. We are recommending $103,950, and there is an asterisk because we had an incomplete application, and we were unable to make a solid vote without the incomplete application. Okay.
Okay.
The next is Martha's Vineyards Community Services, and as anybody's asked us before, I think everybody now knows that it's just a name, the Martha's Vineyard Community Services. It's run by a woman named Kathy, or our representative is a woman named Kathy Hackett. Kathy is the only person I have ever met who has worked a job for over 30 years that still comes in with a smile, wondering how she can change the next day and what challenge is going to meet her. She is absolutely one of the most dynamic human beings, like unbelievable. She works with 16 families right now on the island. Some of those families have children that are in their 40s that she, when she first started doing this, was their advocate and has remained their advocate throughout. She works with these families not only in the school system, but she works with them, getting them off island to medical appointments, to testing. She opens up the doorways too with them with other families, opening up with other families. She works with Autism Speaks local office here. She collaborates with them. They work an awful lot on training. They've done a lot of training and programs throughout the years. And last year they were awarded a grant called from the Department of Developmental Services. And it was through a thing called KIT. And it's Kids Included Together. And the grant was to develop an inclusive program on the island, educational programs on the island. And they came down for a couple of months during the spring and worked on that, and have developed and done more trainings with teachers and families and staff up at the school. Actually, it was so well represented and so well done that Kathy Hackett represented the town of Nantucket in San Diego in December, and this program and what this program has done, and how taking the program ideas that they have done here and implementing in other school districts would be amazing for other school districts. So she's just, I can't say enough about what she does and how many lives she's actually affected with her programs.
This is one of those organizations, excuse me, Dorothy, this is one of those organizations when we had a discussion at a FinCom meeting a couple of weeks ago about some of these organizations should ask for more money, and I would suggest that this would be one of those, because it's one of those organizations. I asked Kathy Hackett when she presented what would happen if you didn't get the money. She goes, I'd come anyway.
Mm.
Yeah, she's amazing, absolutely amazing. So with our recommendation, Kathy, we are recommending $18,000.
And her other source of revenue is what? Does the school system pay her fees, or the
No,
other-
actually, no. She's
No.
paid by the Department of Health and they have a grant through the Department of Mental Health, Department of Disabilities, and Department of Education. It's a mutual. It's funded through 3 different organizations.
It's 10.7% of the total budget.
She's good at those numbers. South Coast Legal Services, Raymond Yops is our representative from the Hyannis office. They offer 8 different kinds of services, or they're broken down to 8 different kinds of services. It's a benefits unit, which helps with government benefits that people are entitled to. Family law, and they work very closely with Safe Place and court advocacy when they're asked to go in to represent particular things in probate court. Civil legal aid to victims of crime. They assist with victims of crime. Disabilities benefit, so anybody that is eligible for state emergency for elderly and disabled children. Most of all, Social Security qualifications. Their housing unit, which helps with homeless, lockouts, terminations, evictions, discrimination from renters or landlords. The housing unit, which is, Home Corps, which helps families that are facing foreclosure. Elderly Law Project, which helps anybody over the age of 60 in any range of legal services that they need. And the Justice Center of Southeastern Massachusetts, which is new to them, which is helping the immigrant population right now. During fiscal year 17, they served 20 clients on Nantucket, closing down 12 of those cases. This year they have already 12 clients. It's approximately $218.75 per client is what we pay. And it's actually really what we're paying of the $4,000. This is we help subsidize the travel fees to the island. He can be seen at, it's a rotating staff, which can be seen at the Salt Marsh Center or Salt Marsh Center, Safe Place, and down at the court building. They used to be at Fairwinds, but they're no longer at Fairwinds.
I mean, just for context, the $4,500, it actually cost them $24,000 to service Nantucket. So, as Dorothy said, we're subsidizing his travel. And the total budget for South Coastal County's legal services is $5.3 million. So they're not asking for a very large allocation, as you can imagine.
And it's about a standard that most communities give is roughly around that money. Some give up to $13,000, and I think one gives $23,000. But generally, it's where it stands.
Okay.
The Interfaith Council. The Interfaith Council is rental assistance, fuel assistance, and the food pantry. And one of the last year, one of the things that happened was we actually asked them to put themselves under one body instead of coming to us as two different things. And they actually came back with feedback and told us that was probably the best thing they'd done. They were able to relook at everything and redo their finances and look at things in a much different way, and it's really actually helped them. So that was nice feedback to hear, Stephen. You should be proud of that feedback. So anyway, the food pantry has implemented some really new and exciting programs this year. One of the ones that I found out about the other day, which I'm the most excited about, and then I'll go to the others, is one of our concerns was that we feel that there is a part of this community that is not getting their needs met as far as food, and that is our senior population. And they started a program last week called Weekend Bags. And they actually are bringing food on the weekends up to the Academy Hills School. And they will be giving each one of the recipients, I think they told me there were 12 individuals up there that they helped. They are going to get a list of the food that's available from the Boston Food Bank. And if they have to bring in items that they don't have here that are the seniors are more apt to want, they will be bringing those in, which I thought was, for us, that was like one of our things is we would like to see you service them more, and that was really exciting to hear that that program was in place right now. They actually also are doing the venison program again this year, which is Dylan Wallace volunteers his time to prep the meat that is given, and the hunters give them venison. And they say that it's really, really looked after because all they get is chicken. So a family gets one pack of chicken a week that goes there. So when you can get venison, they said it's a hot commodity and it is out the door. And it's also a nice way to see the venison used because sometimes, if you get 2 deer, you really aren't going to eat more than one a year, a family. So it's really cool. And they are working with Sustainable Nantucket, and people that have their own family gardens are bringing in produce and adding it to the produce that's there. They also purchase what's called the CSA shares from Moore's End Farm and Bartlett Farm. And that brings farm to table food to the food pantry, which has been new in this last year, which is really cool because getting canned, it's not only canned goods. You might only get canned goods and potatoes before, and now if there's corn, there's corn. If there's squash, there's squash. So that's pretty cool. They believe they service about 15% of our community, but that's taking in some of and what's hard with that number is some of it is we have an influx in the summer with summer staff.
So what's the number of people? And I want to back out how many people they think live here.
Stephen, do you have an
One of your
interest in
favorite
that?
factoids.
Well, if you want a factoid.
That's my own personal obsession. You don't need to
Factoid, it
answer
could be
that.
about 3,000. But,
Okay.
but what gets very hard is if you take the 15%, you're talking about 3,000, but you're also talking about, you have summer clientele, summer staff that come in, and you always know the numbers are higher in June and July and August than they are any other time,
Mhm.
which is usually the bread and butter months.
Right.
They find that January and February the numbers go up too,
Yeah.
where we would think that they would go up, would
Sure.
be January and February, where most people, the outdoor landscapers and people like that really don't have the work.
Yep.
So, they're doing there are two other programs. They're doing a food rescue, so started by, again, the Unitarian Church, which is they go to restaurants and to caterers, and when restaurants close, any food that is sealed and packaged and able to be used is donated to the food pantry. And when catering jobs have stuff, if it's sealed, still sealed, they get that food that, if you had a catering, you hired somebody, you have a lot of leftover food, they make a donation of the food. As long as it's not cooked, as long as it's sealed, they can use it. And also, the Civic League, members of the Civic League, two of them have started on weekends during rental season. They collect the food that's left over, the non-perishable foods that are left in houses, and they donate them to the food pantry. So it's pretty cool. They're saying they received about $50,000 in-kind gifts last year,
That's great.
which is really cool.
All the local real estate brokerages used to advertise that food rescue program in the summer, and I don't know why that stopped, but it should come back because I know that there were.
Do you know anybody in the real estate?
No one.
I'd be happy to bring it up at our next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be good. Then rental assistance this year has helped 28 households. Sorry, they don't like to say families. 28 households. So far, they've allocated about $85,000. They're saying that there's rents are higher, and it's getting more difficult for families to find places. They're finding that they're giving a little bit more money, on average, to homes, to family, or to households. And it's about taking into this time last year, they're $25,000 more than they had spent this time last year on it. Fuel assistance this year, they have 29 new participants, and while helping numerous others with the old applications. They also got a funding or a grant from somebody, or it isn't a grant, I'm sorry, they got funds from somebody. So they do their own fuel assistance too. If they find people that are under the federal standard, which is $32,000, they can fill a tank of oil for somebody, and they've been using those funds to do so. So with that program, we allocated. They asked for $72,000, and we were saying $70,000. The Nantucket. Any questions on that? Okay, Nantucket Cottage Hospital has now an interpreters. Their services. They're running the interpreter services for the hospital, which work with all primary doctors and visiting doctors. They have a master social worker, 2 healthcare advocates, 1 social service coordinator, an interpreter, and supervisor who is also an assistant social worker. They have an interpreter coordinator and 2 full-time interpreters, plus 8 interpreters on call. The social service department provides, besides the common areas affiliated with hospitals such as dialysis, emergency surgery, medical surgery, discharge, emergency room discharge, behavioral health crisis, they also are almost like our local social service department. They work on getting people on with the Social Security office. They work with insurance counseling, budget counseling, homelessness, addiction, health crisis. They enroll people. They've helped numerous people enroll in health insurance. And they also are the stewards of the medical funding for families that have medical crisis, whether testing or other else. I think we're pretty blessed to have this department. And as noted in our report, we were saddened to find out that Peter McKay is retiring in September. And I think it's crucial that we find out what the Cottage Hospital's plans are to replace Peter McKay, because he is one unbelievable human being who has really taken an office that was a one-man office and made it an 8-person show. And it is unbelievable on a given day to go up there and watch how many people are in there. They had 177 clients a week a year ago. They are seeing 216 a week now. And that is health insurance advocacy, that is foods, even helping getting people to food stamps, it's immigration. He is doing the whole slew of it. And it really behooves the town to know what the steps are going to take, because when Peter leaves, there's going to be a huge void in this community. And I think we have been so blessed to have had him in our corner for the last 30 years. And I really wish that he does very well, but I wish he would stay another couple of years.
In your meetings with Peter, did he raise any? Did he lead you to believe that Partners is going to continue to fund this department in the way that it has? I know that he's been an advocate for keeping this department alive and growing it.
Well, interestingly enough, when I went in, my first question to the chief financial officer is, what is your plan? And he goes, what are you talking about? And he didn't even understand that Peter was retiring, even though Peter had announced it a couple months before.
Right.
So I asked him, I said, I'm going to come back to you because I want to know what your plan is. And he did tell me that they would continue to support it, but what we want to know is that they have somebody that understands the dynamics of this community, because nobody understands it better than Peter McKay, and he really does understand the whole dynamics of the community. So I really think it's something that we really want to keep our hands on, and I know that it's really not our place, but on advocacy for human services, it really is our place.
Yeah.
So with that, they had asked for somebody put here, so the fiscal year request on my report is incorrect. They asked for 120,000, and we are allocating them 103,950.
Gotcha. So this figure in the request column is incorrect.
The one that says
95.
Yes, I don't
215.
know why that it was changed. I don't know why that came through like that.
Okay.
Okay. There's no fund. We cannot give anybody any more money than they have requested. That's against. So I just saw that, and I'm sorry, I don't know why that. We've had a couple of those go through. So.
Okay. Well, that solves a question I was about to ask you about why the total didn't add up.
Thanks.
Yeah, good.
And then Small Friends. Small Friends is our only non-for-profit early childhood program. And they run a program, what we help subsidize is the program that runs from 2:30 in the afternoon to 5:15. They have 69 children servicing 51 families. And it is the only program that takes children as young as 3 months. So for families that have to get back to work, that's a big thing. And it allows a lot of families to work full-time jobs. And they have now developed a more comprehensive educational and social program. One of the more exciting things is they have an outdoor classroom where the children are learning to plant and grow things, and they're actually eating those in their nutrition program, which we used to supplement 2 years ago, which is pretty cool that they're taking it from, and they said that basically the kids are playing in the dirt and they're planting and they're getting to see what they've planted. So I think it's pretty cool. It's fun to see what they've changed and how they're developing. They got they're recipients too of the Healthy 2020 grant, and it's they're looking at possible expansion of their Small Friends, whether it's expansion in size, in their building, or in their capability of what they're able to do. They're not quite sure. It's a study, and they're hoping to be able to come back to us in a year and tell us what they're hoping to do with their expansion. But it's been Small Friends has been a viable source of daycare in this community for many, many years. And I think it's as important as serving our elderly is serving the families that have the young children that will be our future of our island. So they're asking us again for $10,000, and we allocated the $10,000 to that cause. So we respectfully, the CRC respectfully requests that you accept the allocations that we have presented to FinCom.
Yeah. Thank you. As always, this is a very thorough report. I regret that I wasn't able to dedicate the time to serve on the CRC this year, but Denise, I was happy that you stepped up, and thank you for doing that. And thank you all for your work. Bert, thank you. Do you have anything that you wanted to add?
I would just like to thank Dorothy for all the work she does. She does
Yeah.
the yeoman's job. And then Denise stepped into your shoes and did an admirable job this year.
Thank you, Bert.
Yeah.
Running through the numbers for us.
Dorothy, you really do an amazing job spearheading this whole. It's really a comprehensive process, and I think the plan that you instituted before I was on the committee to have people partner up, members of your committee partner up, and go to each one of these applicants and see how last year's allocation was spent and what the purpose is for this year's grant would be. It's a key piece, and I know that you instituted that. So, well done, and thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Dorothy is a force of nature.
It's true. I mean, one thing that sticks out to me is every one of these applicants. You noted the person at the top who drives each one of those organizations that delivers such a vital service, and you belong in that same category. So thank you for doing what you do to make sure that the due diligence is being done so that members of this committee and the public can feel confident about the fact that these monies are going to the right places and to the organizations that need it.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. I sort of needed that today, so thank you.
No, you're welcome.
You're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the report? No? Seeing no discussion, I'd be open to hearing a motion about accepting the recommendations.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry for being late.
It's okay.
Now we can make some noise. I know what's next, but I lost my place on the agenda, so I'm looking for it.
Developing motions, maybe. We received all the motions for the, or partially for the zoning or real estate or whatever it was. I couldn't open it. It was an email. Did you get that?
We've got a chart.
We got two charts.
Yeah, we did get a chart trying to, I guess it'd be an easy thing to answer. Are the highlighted ones the ones we don't have motions for, or the ones we do have motions for?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's actually delineated that way.
Oh. What is the, what's the meaning of the highlighting?
Okay, so motions 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 are all highlighted because we needed bond council's approval on the motions, which we just got, with the exception of Article 17. I have a new motion that I need to forward to the town manager.
Okay.
For, which is the Marine Department building. So those are highlighted because we needed additional action on them, which I just received the email a few minutes ago.
Okay. So I'm actually asking about a different set of highlights.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
For you, referring to chart.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chart. So we've got highlights on article. So we've,
Also,
yeah.
those are basically, most of those are red.
Okay. Great.
But if we start.
I mean, do you want to just go through the warrant? I mean, because I skimmed through it this morning. It seemed to me that there were, I mean,
I think there's a number of things that we can get out of the way. If there's, okay.
The challenge I had with the warrant was I'm not sure it's clear which ones we've already voted on and which ones are just new language to be voted on, but.
I see.
If
Well,
have
we,
the chart,
yeah,
so
on
we can-
this chart here, this was in the email that Julia sent around. It's pages 34, 33, and 34. And it does let us know, apparently we've taken action on
Yep. they
one
voted.
article?
well, actually, that
Yeah,
one,
this
I
one,
think,
right?
there was one or two articles
Okay, yeah.
where the recommended vote in the warrant is not the same as on our chart. So I don't know if you're recommending that we change our vote or what, so.
Can I say something?
Please.
So I worked on this over the weekend. My intent was to just get as many motions in there as I could. I didn't
Oh, so
pay
it's
any
your
attention
recommendation.
to whether you approve them or not.
No,
I
and
just put them in as, really as all drafts.
I think Joe's point is about the chart, right? No.
Right, this, and I went through article by article today, just trying to see which ones had comments, and I just found a couple that it said finance committee motion, I forget which,
Oh.
motion not to adopt, and yet the chart says that we had either not voted or had voted a different vote.
Right, so Libby, you suggested something just so we could accept it or change it or whatever. Okay, got it.
Wanted-
So we have to figure out which ones we want to call of Libby's motions.
We're gonna go through each one.
Here we go.
So we should
This is the one with the new
be
picture.
skipping okay.
I just downloaded everything.
So we're prepared to, or
I think it's
Brian
great.
and Libby, you're prepared for us to take action on anything that has a suggested motion here, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so Article 1, receipt of reports. Everybody can see the proposed motion there. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
It's a
Seeing
motion
none?
to adopt, right?
Motion to adopt, right?
No?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Unpaid bills, we don't have a motion for that. I assume we're waiting for the unpaid bills. Article 3 and 4, we also don't have motions, so we'll skip to 5.
Before,
Yep.
we have in the exhibit, we have
Oh, excuse me.
Well, that's this.
Let's not spend a lot of time on the $1.
Yeah, it's just so that we can keep it open for future years. That's
Okay, great.
all. So I don't have to go through 2 steps in future years.
Okay, good enough. I see the 4 million figure sticks out, but that's the fuel revolver.
Right, and that's consistent with what it was voted at last year's annual town meeting, so they
Okay.
did not make a change to that.
Okay.
Other large amounts, beach improvement, that's from the beach permit stickers, so we don't need to be concerned about that figure. Is there anything in here we should be asking questions about?
I don't think so. The only thing that's a little new is toward the road repairs, right? Yeah. That's a new revolving fund that we're establishing in Article 3. And we're not putting any
Okay.
money into it.
We won't be, right, it's just, it allows us to take road opening permits and fees and collect them here, and then for the town to do the paving, instead of waiting for longer periods, for us to be more in control of when paving's done around road openings.
Okay.
Have control over-
So this isn't a new revenue source per se, it's just allocating the money, separately, so that, okay, makes sense.
So why would, for Article 3, so you say we have more control over the paving, we don't give someone a timeline if they're going to open the road, then you need to get it
It's very
paved?
dependent on the paver.
Okay.
And the idea is that we would have control over the paver and organize the road patches to be done more consistently at like one time, say, rather than having individual contractors get it for, somebody does it now, and then somebody does it in 3 months, and somebody does it, so that we can also be more consistent with how the patch is.
Well, we bought the infrared machine, right? We, the town.
And so some of it can be done with us for these fees, but the bigger ones probably would be.
Okay.
Okay, so do we want to,
So I will accept a motion based on the proposed motion you have in the handout here for Article 4.
Article 4, motion to adopt?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 5, this is the reserve fund, $500,000, to my recollection, is sort of an annual appropriation. And it's-
Prior years.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 6 does not have a motion unless it's here in this packet.
No.
It is not. Okay. Article 7.
Goes on forever.
Is there any difference in the motion from what we see in the article?
I don't believe so, no, they're the same.
Okay. Do I have a motion on Article 7?
Motion to adopt?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
It's
Artic-
coming, right?
Yes, we'll finalize and finish it.
We can probably put 9 in now. Okay.
Now you did, right?
9's in the sort of beginning paragraph is in, but we didn't have the, when I was doing this the other day, because I didn't understand.
Gotcha. Okay. So Article 9, from what you have in the packet, the only difference is the number, 450,000, is that right?
Yeah, isn't that right?
Well, and the allocations, of course. Okay.
So, I'm sorry, the 450 doesn't add, I didn't.
Yeah, if you add the numbers.
Because of the Fairwinds number is off?
Everything adds up. I
Yeah.
verified that a few times. I think the discrepancy was in the initial request.
Right, the request figure was,
Right, the allocation's
Yep.
foot to 450.
450?
Yeah,
Okay.
trust me.
okay.
This once.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion on Article 9?
Didn't you already do it?
Move to adopt.
Move to adopt as written in the handout.
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all in the works. Right? The next ready one, I think, is 15, and it's highlighted, but Brian was just saying that all of these 15, 16,
18.
and 18 and 19 have been reviewed by bond counsel and are all ready to go. 17 is still being reviewed.
Okay. Okay, so 15 is the Old South Corridor improvements. Was that number 15 million at one point?
Yes, it was, and it was reduced to give the Sparks Ave project $1 million. And also the thinking was that the 15 million was probably on the higher side of things.
Okay,
So it was able to be reduced.
I see.
But yes, it was initially.
What is the Sparks Ave project?
That is Article 19.
Sidewalks.
And that is doing sidewalk from, on Sparks from Atlantic to the roundabout.
Nice. Okay. Article 15. Can I get a motion on 15?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 16, Public Works Facility. So this is just the design portion, and the allocation for the construction would come next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion on 16?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Marine Department. Has this number changed? 3.4?
It
the-
hasn't. The question was how to work in this $1 million grant that we're getting, and so Brian's getting me that version, that the number is, so 3.4 to 5 to be borrowed, but the idea is that we're getting $1 million grant.
So this is somewhat similar to the airport figures that we get from time to time that are higher than the town will actually
The
be.
language actually specifically reduces our authorization by the value of the grant received, so we need to include that into the language.
Okay, so we're going to hold on 17.
Yeah, we'll have it for Thursday.
Great. Is 18 ready to go?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on what 18 is. What is 18?
Stormwater
Storm.
improvements,
Just generally.
general all over.
Okay, everywhere. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks. 19, Sparks Ave sidewalks. Seems like a good idea. Can I get a motion on 19?
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Waterways, Article 20, I think is the normal, quote, normal.
Okay, can I get a motion
So
on
moved.
20?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Same with 21, ambulance reserve,
Yep.
it's about what it was, is that about what it was last year?
Yeah, 600.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Motion
Motion on,
approved.
thank you.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
22, jury fees, so the warrant doesn't have that in there, so we have it, but I think it's in there. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
That's the back page. Nope.
That's right. It's after
Second
the
page.
chart.
Third
Third
page,
page.
thank you.
It's way in there.
Okay, so Cliff, you already asked, the figure is correct, and can I get a motion on 22 as
Motion to
written in the
adopt.
handout? Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
23 is the chairman's assessment,
Are we waiting on a figure for that?
and I think the figure, is it 170?
It's 171.
It's in the article, but I didn't remember if it changed or not, so we just need to put the motion in that reflects the number that's in the article.
Okay, so we don't expect surprises, but we don't have it written, so we'll hold.
24, 24 is an article that is only in there in the event that FinCom asks whatever your name is, county review, and the county commissioners don't agree on the budget, then there's a process to deal with it, but you have agreed on the budget, so it's a take,
It's
Okay.
a what? I'm sorry, Libby?
it's a take no action.
Yeah, okay.
But we need to record that, we have to.
Do we need to act on 23 before 24?
Up to you.
Okay,
You can go.
great. We'll hold.
5, we are,
Yeah, we're going through.
okay. 26 should be all set.
So 26, did we start giving $1 million and then we stepped back to $500,000, or it's always been
It was
500,000?
250.
It was
250.
to start, and then we raised to 500,000.
Great.
So,
Okay, can I get a motion on 26?
move to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, 27. Let's see. Rural Housing Trust Fund now, but I think you all Did you all agree with that?
There were
Absolutely not.
discussions outside of the meeting, I think, between individuals, but it hasn't been discussed here, this new number.
Doesn't mean we won't do it here, but no,
Right.
we haven't done it yet.
Okay. Chris, you have the floor.
I'm just torn. I mean, I get the political expediency of not fighting it out on the town meeting floor and possibly losing it at 600, so I understand maybe some of the opinions David gathered. To me, it's to sit here and listen to a Health and Human Services conversation where we cut people back and we're going to put 300 aside for good reasons we've all discussed doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It's just very tough for me. I mean, I'd probably go along, but I haven't decided.
Okay. Well, before we spend a whole lot of time here, maybe people can indicate to me which way they're going to vote. If we're very close, then we should have a long, drawn-out debate, and if we're not very close, then maybe we could just go to a vote.
So just to remind me, it was 600 that they requested, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, they requested
1.2.
1.2.
Oh,
And town admin, I think, was recommending.
We were recommending 800,000. The board recommended just 600,000, which we went back and redid. And then it ultimately settled on 300,000.
the Board of Selectmen recommended 600.
That was initial discussion in our revised budget proposal. We brought that down to meet what we heard from the board.
Okay,
And then I think their a couple meetings ago, they recommended 300,000.
Right, with a condition of some sort of assistance from FinCom of reviewing their budget of it.
I'm sorry, what was that last part? They wanted...
There was some discussion about 300 this year with sort of contingent upon the FinCom, I guess through the chair, reviewing some of their financial plans. Isn't that something like that?
Okay.
There was some concern that their long-term financial plan or even short-term financial plan was not robust.
I vaguely remember a discussion about putting someone from FinCom on the Affordable Housing Trust as a member.
I think I suggested that, and then I also said that if I were in their shoes, I probably wouldn't accept that. But
Yeah, it's one piece that just occurred to me.
I actually think they would.
yeah, well, maybe.
But I also, as long as I realize, I really should recuse myself from this conversation, so.
Okay. So now we're down to the five of us, which is just enough to take action if we wanted to.
I think when it comes to this, I mean, it seems to be controversial, but they can't spend any of this money that they have without
Sure they can.
the Board of Selectmen
Not true.
approval. I thought that was the...
No,
The statute is exactly the opposite.
Yeah, I think that was the $1 million that they were given.
That was the original
Yeah,
one?
that was a special circumstance for that one pile of money, which is, I think, already been spoken for. It's going to do weight drive over here. Is that right?
Most of it.
Well,
400,000 of that is given to the
Okay.
So they're free to spend as they like.
I think they're free to spend, and, Chris, I think this is related to your issue here. It's, if you give them, if they need $1.2 million to do something substantial, what's the purpose of giving them $300,000? It's either not enough to do anything, and if that's the case, then it's far too much to give them. If you really need $1 million to solve a problem, $300,000 is just taking away available resources for something else, and then they're certainly worthy causes other places. So that, is a concern of mine. If there's not a good plan for the money, then they don't deserve a dollar. That doesn't mean that the need isn't valid or that a certain sum of money couldn't do some good, but there's no plan for what to do with this sum of money.
But isn't that the philosophy that, say, we only meet and do these articles once a year, and say in September they found a piece of property and they had to move quickly? I thought that was the purpose for creating them, was they're more nimble and they can act quickly and buy these properties.
That is an argument that I've heard made, but we don't do this once a year. We do this twice a year.
Wow.
We do it however many times a year we need to.
That's right.
So you don't think that's a valid argument, then?
I don't.
Okay.
I remember last year asking for a plan for what you would do with a sum of money. They asked for a sum of money, and they didn't come forward with a plan attached to it. So $1.2 million was based on, well, this is what we think we would get if our housing tax went in. Okay, well, how would you use that money? Now, the difference is if they had a recurring source of revenue, then they could go borrow money. And now that $1.2 million a year can service a lot of debt, and now you can do something substantial. $1.2 million in a vacuum doesn't do a whole lot for housing. You can't go borrow on it, so you'd have to buy everything in cash, and that's, you can't really do anything meaningful. And $300,000 you can do even less.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the argument against. The argument for is there's a dire need for housing, and the town should be doing something.
And I think that's maybe we've lost the forest through the trees. Didn't we develop this? We developed this before the big turn down, and we had an employee that managed that department, or was in that department, and then the real estate went down the tubes, and we got rid of that employee. So I guess what I'm trying to say is town meeting voted for something, so I guess maybe should we establish a budget then for them? Or not even have that department anymore? I don't. It seems like town meeting asked for something, and then we're kind of
I'm
formed
not
it, but
familiar with the history. Who's the staff person that used to be in charge of
Are
housing?
you talking about Susan Benavides?
Yeah, is it the same one and the same what we had? I thought that's what this.
She was sort of a part-time.
Yeah, now we have a full-time. If anything, the town's redoubled their efforts. I think.
Right, but if we don't create a budget for them, then what use is it? It's like saying you have a fire department, but budget's $100, so
Well,
you can't put them any
the
fires.
fire department
so.
doesn't ask us to make a budget, nor should they. And I think maybe if we have a paid housing director, and we have a full board now of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, maybe they should come with a budget if they want money.
Okay.
It's a counterpoint.
I think that their hopeful source of revenue or something is the community housing director.
Right, and I think they can do a lot more if that is a guaranteed revenue source every year, but you would still need a plan for how to spend the money.
Yes.
And the fact that they don't have one, 18 months into this discussion of getting that recurring revenue source, I think is a problem.
I would prefer to see if we said, now I realize we can't dictate how they spend the money. However, you have $300,000, hire a consultant or hire a person who will put together a robust plan that gives 2 or 3 alternatives that are easy to fund as and when you can opportunistically take them. And because none of the Affordable Housing Trust isn't going to actually build or manage any projects that come through, it's citizen volunteers who fully applaud that they're trying to do something and recognize that this is a great thing to do, but to say it'll be a great thing to do and I need a bank account of $3 million and then I can do even more great things. Well, what would those specifically be?
Right.
It's, in my mind, if I want to do something, I have an idea of what I want to do, what it costs, and I can fully articulate that, at least at some level of detail. I mean, all of us could, at the back of a piece of paper, say these are the 10 things I would do, and here's how I'd go about it, and here's a likelihood of it occurring. And that's what I'm missing with their request. Now, understanding to Stephen's point about it does become more of an emotional and political discussion at town floor meeting, or town meeting floor. But you don't throw money at it just because of that, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, I don't have my pages in front of me, but wasn't the $300,000 able to cover like the down payment assistance, and they had $150,000 in for helping with things like that? So it did give them funding to still execute some of the things that they were trying to execute on a ad hoc basis.
Right, and they're not starting from zero. I don't have in front of me what they have in the account now, but they have available resources.
$300 to cover what they brought in, the line item plan for. In fact, they could do that with their CPC funding and with their current
Oh, yeah, that's right.
balance, as I recall.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's how we all get to a zero number. I think it's also just always important to point out at this point in this discussion too, this is not the only place where the town makes an effort on affordable housing. I think that sometimes gets lost in this conversation, too. I mean,
Right.
Subsidizing it, to an enormous degree off of market with a $1 lease on a piece of property. There's things going on the zoning and planning side. The town has a number of different efforts going forward on affordable housing, of which this would be one possible vehicle.
So I guess I had to go back to town meeting when we voted this in to create this board. What was their mission statement, I guess? Maybe that's what we need to find out. That's what's clearer.
It's been
as far
so
as-
long. I mean, the last time I remember discussing it, or not the last time, but, when I first became aware of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we were talking about disbanding it because we had empty seats for years. I mean, they didn't hold meetings. So I don't know. I actually don't know what the governmental or non-governmental status of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is. I mean, who has purview over this money?
I'll send you the town code.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I went back and looked at the original warrant thing put it together, and it's pretty broad. You establish a trust, and it can be for funds from the town, or funds from charitable sources, or other places, grants they get, or they can potentially get funding in a lot of different ways.
Right. So that reminds me of a point you brought up a few meetings ago, which is, what is the role of Affordable Housing Trust Fund? And is it a clearinghouse that should disperse monies to other organizations that will actually do the work, or is it the organization that does the work themselves? And I don't know, because we have, money sort of going between recipients from various town sources, from
So we'd like
community
them to clarify their mission statement then, apparently.
I would, and I think we all have a lot of not just sympathy. We have empathy for the people in need of housing, and we all recognize. I think I'll just speak for myself. I recognize that this is an issue that needs resources, but it also needs a plan. And I think money in the absence of a plan is a bad idea.
I mean, if I think of the rigor that we just went through with the CRC, and the number of meetings I went to, and the number of visits I went to. So I volunteered and was happy to do it, and then I realized how much time it was going to take. So and again, not complaining 1 second, but there's a lot of discipline in the way that the CRC process works for requesting and allocating funds. And if we even saw half of this here, we potentially would have a different opinion in this discussion right now.
Should we table our motion until we, or what do you think?
Well,
We'll beat this to death?
Yeah,
So,
sorry, go ahead.
It is, I guess, anybody's call. I mean, I would probably, hopefully wait till we'd hopefully have more members of the board. If there is the potential of voting this not in agreement with the selectmen on this, maybe you want to try to have as many board members here as possible.
Sure.
Joanna's here Thursday.
I think the suggestion to speak with Affordable Housing Trust Fund members, or maybe members of the Board of Selectmen, about how some of this $300,000 or whatever number is allocated, how that can be best used so that we're in a place to better use the money in the future. I think that's a good idea. We do have a housing production plan, but we haven't bridged that gap between the housing production plan, which has some general ideas, and then actually how we would use the $1.2 million or whatever money might come from this housing tax. And that's a danger in and of itself. If we have lost time after we get that revenue source, that's a problem. So maybe this money can be used strategically in a way that satisfies our concerns, and also sets this fund up for success. So my suggestion is that we don't take any action today, and we reach out to Tucker and maybe to Don and float that idea of earmarking some of this money for maybe some outside consultant work or some other planning purposes.
Right.
Final thoughts, Chris?
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we'll leave 27. 28 has no motion.
Yeah, 28's in progress, 29 should be all set.
Okay. This was something that Superintendent Cozart spoke about in his presentation. Can I get a motion on 29?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Sorry, that is not the thing
No.
that
No,
Cozart
it's
spoke
not the-
about.
no,
It's a fire
it's
door.
different.
For the, on the town side,
Yeah.
it's very similar to 28. We're not proposing to fund it yet, just to set up the fund so that, basically the long-time employees leave, there's a fund to pay their, bills.
Okay. All right. Did I get a motion?
Motion to
I think I did.
accept.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, 30 is,
This is,
stabilization of substance abuse to be funded by the marijuana tax. And we went around a little bit with the selectmen on what the money could be for, and initially, town council said it wasn't specific enough, so we tried to make it more specific in the article, and I just pretty much copied the article into the motion.
okay.
So the idea is that the funds would go to programs listed in the motion, and that the contract review committee would provide recommendations, sort of like they do now, so it'd be a little bit
Gotcha.
the same.
And this earmarks 50% of the revenue, but not
Yes,
all of it.
Sorry, thank you. The board had talked about, initially they were talking about more than that, and we don't know how much we're going to get yet. So it was better to start out on the lower side and go higher.
Okay. So this requires that 50% is allocated, and more could be.
Yes, and if there's more, yes, more could be through an amendment to this. And of the amount that we receive, if we're finding that we're receiving.
And the rest goes into the general fund, which theoretically is used to go to the same purpose anyway. I mean, we just allocated $450,000. Yeah, okay. Comfortable with that? Can I get a motion on 30?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, 31, I guess I forgot about that one, but I need to get a motion on that. So we're still working on 31. 32 is the thing that's.
That's
Yeah.
Superintendent Cozart's.
When you vote this, I just want to make a note that where it says that to transfer, to appropriate $250,000, that actually should say transfer from the fiscal 2018 school budget.
The last page of your exhibit actually has.
Okay, okay, so it does not just say transfer.
So somebody just.
Okay, great. And the figure changed slightly also to $270,364.
No, it's $250,000.
Oh. Folded my page incorrectly. I'm looking at the ferry embarkation. Got it, 250.
Where it says appropriate, it should say transfer. That's the only change we would have to make to that. It's not an appropriation for this year, it's a transfer from their 18 budget into this.
Okay. Can I get a motion on 32 as written in the exhibit?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Hang on just a
Oh,
second.
thank you.
Well, it can't be as written, right? It has to be,
As
to be
transferred.
Yeah,
corrected.
you want to approve it with the change from appropriate to transfer. We can't appropriate for fiscal 18 at this point. The tax rate's been set. The only thing we need to do is transfer.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
change the word. Shall I rephrase my motion then?
Yes.
Please rephrase.
All right. Move to adopt Article 32 with the
Amendment?
change of the word appropriate to transfer in the, I guess it's,
As otherwise written in the exhibit.
draft
Motion.
Great. That sounds good to me. Can I get a
Second.
second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Phew.
33 and 34 are the CPC articles. And I just basically used the same information from the articles.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that I am chair on this one, so I don't have to voice a dissenting vote. I really hate paying for all these windows, but such is life, I guess.
And I think I should state for the record that since I'm associated with Habitat and we're a beneficiary under this, I don't think I can recuse myself for a subcomponent of the motion, and I think I should be able to vote on it, but I'll say for the record that one of the grants in this does benefit an organization that I'm associated with.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who our ethics expert is. My wife's on the board of one of those organizations. I don't know what that means for me.
When in doubt, recuse.
On the whole thing, or just?
Then we would all look fine.
So now we can't.
But, no, I think we still can vote, can't we?
Without two, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even if the number of votes doesn't make a majority of
We
the
still have
full
a quorum,
board?
even though
We
two
only
of
have
us
40
have to...
sitting.
Yeah, you still have a quorum even though two are
Abstaining.
Okay,
Abstain. All right, I'll abstain.
great.
So we're gonna vote as a lot here, seeing it's, what did you say, it's 30?
Well, we're going to take them individually. We're going to
Okay.
take Article 33, and I'll ask for a motion on Article 33 with the drafted comment.
So
Drafted
moved.
motion, excuse me. Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And so that was the transfers, and now we're looking for the appropriation. So Article 34, can I get a motion on 34?
Motion to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And just for the record, Chris and Joe abstain.
Chris and Joe abstained.
Abstain.
All right, 35. I thought you were not to adopt, take no action or whatever, so figure that out, but I wasn't quite sure if you wanted to have comments.
We did want to have a comment, but we did also want to take no action rather than move not to adopt.
Okay. Mr. Pickler, I believe, is going to have some kind of a motion which he gave to the committee a few weeks ago.
Second motion.
So he's going to try to amend this on the floor?
I believe so. For a sensibility.
Yeah.
Okay? All the more reason to have a comment, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. Does somebody want to volunteer to draft a comment for
I thought you
review?
did.
I did? I don't know if well, we'll have to review the minutes on that one. Okay. I vaguely remember doing that. I must have been overtired,
think it
and
was
I did
January
that.
11th.
Yeah.
Check the minutes.
Okay. All right. I'll bring a comment back for discussion on
I think it's going to
Thursday.
take quite a bit of discussion. I think, a draft I think will be great, but I wouldn't burn a lot of calories on it because I think it's going to take quite a bit of
Sure.
discussion on it, and I think it's important that this board do have one.
Absolutely.
Oh, I agree.
think
No,
I think
I feel
this could
strongly
be-
there
this
should
could
be a
take
comment.
off
I
on
just
it.
felt
Yeah.
strongly that you should write it, but I'll do it.
Well, I was going to say, I'd be happy to do draft number one and forward it to you, and then you can
Okay.
take that as a starting point.
Great. So we'll do that. I think that we're settled on what our action will be, that we want to take no action. Is that right?
Yes.
So, okay.
We
So
voted that already.
Yes,
we did. Great. So we'll
I
just,
was the one vote. I was the dissenting vote. But yeah.
okay,
Why do you
so,
think I want to write the...
so we'll just bring that back for discussion on the comment only on Thursday.
All right, 36 through 52 are all zoning. And they're mostly all in, I think there's a couple that the planning board is still working on. And I don't know what you want to do with,
Did everybody get the chart that shows how many more dwelling units or, what subdivision potential is created by all of these changes?
This one?
That looks like the one.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I didn't get that one. Maybe I did, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts at Article 36 and goes to, as Libby just said, actually 53.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? Do we want to take these up, or do we want to wait till we have all of the motions and then do them all together?
I think we should just wait.
How does the audience feel about that? Would you prefer that we take some action here and clean these up?
I don't mind waiting. I'm just,
Nothing is sticking out to me as controversial necessarily. I don't think that.
I think there's only two. Did I forward Leslie's email? I think she said there were two. Maybe there are outstanding.
I think those were going to be taken to the hearing.
There might be two.
Okay.
I mean, it looks like,
They're coming in Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah, Andrew or Leslie is coming in Thursday to go through all of them.
Oh, great.
Great.
I
So
definitely have some questions. So.
okay. So we'll wait and take action after we've had a chance to ask some questions.
So 53 is a zoning and a sewer district change. So maybe you could just take a look at that.
So
On the sewer district.
Sorry, go ahead.
The board took action on those last week and approved, I think, all of them except for this one. 53. So I prepared your motion saying to be with the board did, would not amend half and then with comment, which is consistent with the comments we've had in prior years when the selectmen do not agree to amend the district.
Okay. And I assume the decision not to include it, or the recommendation not to include this property, is because it didn't meet the requirements of the checklist?
Correct.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to, there's a planning board motion and a finance committee motion?
Because this article does two things, the zoning change and the sewer district map. For some reason, the sponsor of the article put two things in one article, and they're really kind of separate. So the planning board would have a motion on the zoning article, and you all will have a motion on the sewer district map.
And what if somebody agrees with one motion and not the other motion?
They're sort of independent of each other. I mean, you may not be able to do one without the other, I
Right.
guess. But
So I just haven't seen that before.
Isn't it the Board of Sewer Commissioners that would make a recommendation on half of this article, rather than planning? Or rather than us, I suppose, if it looks like we're commenting on it.
You all are the group that makes, I mean, you don't have to make a motion on this article,
Okay.
but when we've had sewer district map amendments in the past, we have pretty much followed what the Board of Selectmen has voted, generally with a comment. So the comment is meant to reflect what your motion is based on. Your motion is based on a vote by the sewer commissioners on February 14th, not to approve the tuition requirement of the sewer district. I did combine the comment with the vote motion. It's a little bit tricky because it's dual.
Yeah, no, I get it. If you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. I just didn't know you could have two motions on the floor for one article. I don't know how that works.
Well, I think it works
They're
well
different.
as long as we agree.
As long as we just show up and say, okay.
Yeah, I think as long as we're going in the same direction, then it works very well, and if we ask questions and people ask questions, then it doesn't work very well. So I
I'm
think
not
we
clear
just
what-
go along as it's
I'm not
written.
clear on what we're asking the voters.
I'm not clear on what, the issue with 43, or a portion of 43 Appleton Road is, but I understand, based on what Libby said, that it doesn't meet the checklist, and we've been, pretty consistent about going with the checklist in the past, and I think we should do it again.
We had a similar article at the special town meeting, not the same location, but the sponsor of the article was Chris Meredith, had an article that tried to make a zoning change and a sewer district map change in the same article. And we had, it was in a different order, actually. We had a FinCom motion on the sewer district, and then a FinCom comment on the sewer district. And then a planning board motion, planning board comment on the FinCom. So we basically did the same thing. special.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee? Does somebody want to make a motion?
I don't think it's that dangerous as a sewer article. I'd move to adopt Article 53 as written.
A second.
Okay. I think we might want to reword that. You don't want to adopt
Oh,
the article.
We want to adopt the motion
As written.
as written.
Great. Can I get a second?
A second. Yes, second.
No, I heard that. I didn't know if Denise was pondering a comment. Nope.
No, I
we're
was
good?
not pondering.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
I
you.
was waiting for the all in favor.
53 is another citizen-sponsored sewer district article. The Board of Selectmen acting as sewer commissioners, approved it to be included in the district, and we did meet the criteria. So I just drafted the motion to be similar to what we've done in the past, again, with your motion, a comment, and Board of Selectmen comment. It's a comment that they kind of started doing, I think, last year, to make it clear that the town is under no obligation to fund sewer extensions for parcels that come into the sewer district.
Okay.
You mean
You mean
50?
54.
right, Lily?
Oh, sorry, did I?
It's okay. That's
Yeah.
all right. 54.
Great. So they're in, but they pay their way in. Makes sense to me.
Make a motion to it. As written.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That is the same situation with 55, 56, 57.
Okay. Quite a lot of properties here. Okay, so these have gone through the checklist process, they meet the checklist, and Board of Selectmen, or, excuse me, the sewer commissioners have recommended that these be included. Okay. Can I get a motion on 55?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt number 56?
Second.
Yes.
All in favor of 56?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 57.
Motion to adopt the language as written?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
58 is a citizen-sponsored article. It is not deemed legal. And so I just drafted a not to adopt, which maybe, I don't know if you want to word it like that, and I just prepared a comment, which is very much what town council had in the town council report for citizens.
I'll just say, sometimes these things seem like, well, it's kind of maybe not legal. They seem gray areas. This one seems very black and white to me, so it seems like we can be comfortable with not adopt.
Yep.
Sometimes I think no action if there's a little gray area, but,
Yep.
so I would make a motion to not adopt as written here,
Article 58.
Article 58.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we want to take up this comment here. I just see that there's one typo at the beginning of the second line. We want to change waiver to waive. Otherwise, looks okay to me. Can I get a motion on that comment with that one edit?
Sure. Motion to adopt the comment with Stephen's edit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
59 is another citizen article, same sort of concept. It's-
We don't have the authority to do it.
This is the one that also had, during the public hearing, some comment from the airport that
I saw that.
Yes.
it's not all maybe as black and white as.
No one knows a lot about the lot, doesn't he?
He does.
He knows all
Why?
about airplanes and
Yeah.
procurement and restaurants and,
An aggressive invasive
Bisulfosphate.
species.
yeah.
He's the environmentalist.
Now, this is an article that we took a vote to take no action. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Take no
no.
action. Never mind.
Did we vote this one already? Was that-
No.
We did.
You did?
On January 11th. Looks like we already
Oh, yeah,
voted on this one.
take no action is what we tried.
Got it. So we did take no action. This says not to adopt. So do we just want to make that change, or do we want to change what our action was?
want to change, if we want to go to not to adopt, we've got to rescind the first vote and
Right. Seems like more trouble than it's worth, but whatever.
So take no action.
Yeah, so we'll leave it as take no action. This is a very well thought out comment, yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen one reference case law before. This is pretty good. I think we should accept this comment. Can I get a motion on the comment?
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
60 is a citizen sponsored article, and I did not know what it was. I think it's more of a sense of the meeting.
Right.
And we've already voted to adopt this one.
We did.
Okay. Do you want to comment?
No, I think I made that motion. I think it's something that we don't know a lot about, so I'm better off not saying a lot about it.
Okay.
Okay.
61 is a citizen article to amend this agricultural commission bylaw by just amending the ownership. So I honestly didn't track anything from what you did already, so I just turned it into a lot of
And what is the issue, that they don't have enough people showing up to the meetings, or? Yeah, okay. Right. Looks okay to me. I don't remember there being a lot of controversy about this. Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall anyone showing up to speak against it, certainly.
Right.
No.
Well, that seems to be the problem, right? Nobody's showing up to any of this stuff. Okay. Can I get a motion on 61?
To adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
62, I'm not really sure what you did before, but it had some legal issues, so I just drafted it not to adopt it.
Okay. Is there any discussion before I ask for a motion on this one?
So I don't have the chart. We have not voted on this one yet?
No.
We've not.
And the comment is, Libby, is this your comment, or is that from town council?
I took it out of town council's paragraphs.
Okay, so on the motion, move not to adopt, is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay, can I get that motion?
Motion not to adopt?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And on the comment, can I get a motion on the comment as drafted?
Motion to accept the comment as written?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oof.
Can I ask a question about that comment? Actually, I know I'm not going to
Sure,
change
yeah.
the adoption of it, but do we ever qualify that in the opinion of town council, the article is not specific enough to be valid for charter? I mean, I don't know, just in reading that, it sounds like we're making
Sure, that
a
makes sense,
legal
yeah.
judgment.
We're not qualified to make that
I don't feel
comment.
qualified to make that statement, I guess.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't
But
vote
we
on
ever-
that. I'd actually like to make that change, but I didn't vote, so I can't ask for reconsideration.
So we want to modify the comment to say, based on recommendation
Just in the
of
opinion of town
or-
council, just add that to the beginning of the comment. I think, Chris, is what you're suggesting, and what I'd like to see.
I'm opening that question. I mean, it's kind of setting a precedent maybe in a lot of these, and I don't know if that's been typically how it's done, or if that makes sense, but, and maybe I've just seen it never written kind of this sharply before, but if people think that's a good idea, that is my suggestion, but I'm open to other thoughts.
I do think it's a good idea to let town meeting know whose opinion that is, because it didn't, come from us.
Based on legal advice from town council?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think
So-
I was counted in the affirmative, so I will.
Okay, so you'll ask for reconsideration?
I'll ask for reconsideration.
Can we get, what do we need, a second on?
Second.
Okay, so now we can reconsider the comment, and the suggestion is to add,
I would move that
based
we-
on the legal opinion of town council, to the beginning of that sentence?
Yes,
Okay,
I would move that we do that.
so with that edit, now can I get a motion on that comment?
I move that we do that.
Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That was fun.
Just trying to see you work your magic.
this an article? It's questionable.
I think we actually, didn't we vote not to adopt?
We
this?
did vote not to adopt on 63. We did not take action on 64.
Right.
How about the comment on 63? Let me read that.
I just don't like the last sentence.
Yeah, you don't want to write that down.
Yeah.
Strike.
The last sentence in the comments.
Almost like you could.
Something red flag.
Right.
So why say it? You just did.
So strike last sentence.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so striking the last sentence, can I get a motion on the comment?
Move to adopt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And
64 is sort of similar, although I'm not sure what you think about the comment.
there was a reason, I think, that we didn't take action on 64.
I'd
last
asked to
time
wait
around.
because I wanted to hear more of the infrastructure, the Old South Road improvement conversation, and those sorts of things. I think
Yeah.
that was the instigator in us not moving forward.
Okay. And now...
For those purposes, I'm set.
Okay, good. That being the case, may I have a motion on 64?
Move not to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Want to do the comment too, Stephen, or?
Yeah. Okay, that is pretty cut and dried, I think. May I have a motion on the comment?
Motion to approve the comment as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Libby, 65, this is something that you circulated an email on earlier today, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't actually read that email in great detail yet, but it's
a long one.
looked generally like what town council and I talked about. And I'm not sure.
Yeah. I read the earlier email from Airport Council, and they made it clear that they were going to raise a big fuss if this was passed, and it sounds like Town Council has suggested not to do anything about this now, and maybe it'll resurface in the future.
Yeah, so he's suggesting a motion that says, move that Article 65 be referred to the Town Government Study Committee for further study.
That's right.
And determining whether the
Yeah.
compensation and benefits provided to the employees of the Airport Commission and the Water Company are consistent with all other town departments.
Excuse me.
And to make a recommendation, the board of selectmen finds committee for action. Now, I have not talked to this government study committee about that. I don't know how they.
Oh, it exists?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
You can
Yeah.
watch their meetings online.
How about that? What are they talking about?
Government studies.
FinCom.
Okay. I thought it was like
Kind
ad
of
hoc, it
research.
came up every 10 years or something. It's going on?
They,
Get rid of those
guys.
people actually applied this time.
Hey, good.
But I would want to make sure they know about this, so that we don't get to popping up in town meetings saying. "Oh,
We didn't want to do this, yeah.
Not our job.
Okay, so that being the case, maybe we'll hold on 65 altogether.
Yeah. I think it's actually a pretty good suggestion, if they will take it on.
Yeah,
So I
Makes
think,
sense.
I think that is a good suggestion. I think yours is a good suggestion. So I'd say, yeah, hold it. So we can do that.
Okay. We are 5:59. I think we're scheduled to go to 6 o'clock. Is this a good breaking point?
Sounds like to me.
Yeah.
My battery's
Good.
going dead.
Wow.
Good, because I don't know what 66 is about. I'll do my homework before next meeting. Now, we did, I asked staff to schedule a meeting for Wednesday. Do we want to hold a meeting tomorrow? We do have plenty of articles to go through. Wait, Juliet.
usually the holiday is not close for the meeting.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
so we
it's-
can't
Gotcha.
technically meet.
Yep. Yeah, I understand. Okay, so
See you Thursday.
just
So we'll see
think a
Thursday.
lot about these things, but don't speak about it with anybody else on the committee, and then we'll come Thursday, raring to go. We'll hear from,
And we'll have more, we'll have some more.
Real estate.
For tomorrow to send around to you as well.
great, and it sounds like Andrew and Leslie will be here on Thursday also, so we can plow through a lot of these zoning articles.
Are we going to get more information on real estate? Are we going to get something from the real estate?
No, I think what we learned from Libby was that the real estate committee is not for that purpose.
I think they sort of said that. Okay, so we know what we're going to know on real estate.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that about life or
Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
just the way the words?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Right on schedule, Mr. Chairman.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
With all that outside noise.
It was a bit distracting from my vantage point. I could see that
Oh, you
thing was
could
like
see it?
6 feet away from the window.
Seven.